German soldiers didn't need intelligence reports to figure out something was wrong. They heard it the moment Americans opened fire. It wasn't one shot. Pause. Another shot. It was steady, fast rifle fire that didn't seem to stop. At first, many German units thought they were facing more machine guns than usual, but they weren't. What they were hearing was ordinary American infantry armed with one rifle, the M1 Garand. To understand why German soldiers came to hate this rifle, we need to rewind to the end of World War I. When the First World War ended, the US Army came away with a hard truth. The battlefield had changed, but the infantry rifle hadn't. American soldiers were still carrying bolt-action rifles, accurate, powerful, reliable, but slow. Every shot required manual operation of the bolt. Against machine guns and artillery, that simply wasn't enough. The army wanted something new. A rifle that would let individual soldiers fire faster, stay on target and maintain pressure without turning everyone into a machine gunner. So in 1919, the US Army officially began looking for a semi-automatic service rifle. The idea wasn't revolutionary. Civilian semi-automatic rifles already existed. The real problem was ammunition. The US Army was committed to the .30-06 cartridge. It was powerful, long-ranged and proven in combat, but that power created massive chamber pressure. Early semi-automatic designs couldn't handle it. Bolts cracked, parts broke. Rifles became too heavy to issue widely. For over a decade, every attempt failed. Then one engineer focused on a different solution. John Garand arrived at Springfield Armory and began working on the problem full-time. His key breakthrough was a gas-operated system. Instead of relying purely on recoil, Garand's rifle siphoned off a small amount of gas from the fired cartridge. That gas drove a piston and operating rod, cycling the bolts smoothly and reliably. It worked. By the early 1930s, Garand's design consistently outperformed every competitor in Army trials. The Army briefly considered switching to a lighter cartridge, which would have made things even easier, but logistics and cost killed the idea. There were millions of .30-06 rounds already stockpiled. Garand was told to make it work with the full-power cartridge. He did. On January 9, 1936, the US Army officially adopted the rifle as the US rifle, caliber .30 M1. No other major power had done this. By the time the United States entered World War II, American factories were producing thousands of M1 Garands every single day. This wasn't a limited issue weapon. This was the standard rifle, and it worked differently from anything most enemy soldiers had ever faced. The Garand used an internal magazine fed by an 8-round N-block clip. You loaded it from the top, fired until empty, and when the last round was gone, the clip ejected with that famous metallic ping. Despite popular myth, that sound almost never mattered in combat. Battles were loud, soldiers weren't fighting alone. Veterans consistently said the ping was barely noticeable. What mattered was what came before it. With a Garand, a soldier could fire 8 aimed shots as fast as he could pull the trigger, without lifting his head, shifting his grip, or working a bolt. That meant faster follow-up shots, better accuracy under stress, more sustained pressure on the enemy. Compared to bolt-action rifles, the rate of effective fire increased dramatically. This advantage became obvious very quickly in the Pacific. Japanese forces quickly realized American rifle fire was heavier than expected. Attacks that relied on closing distance were shredded by continuous semi-automatic fire. Some Japanese units believed American forces had far more automatic weapons than they actually did. They were wrong, but that misunderstanding itself shows how effective the rifle was. Then the Americans met the Germans. Despite what movies suggest, most German infantry did not carry submachine guns or assault rifles. The standard rifle was still the Kar-98K. Germany produced over 14 million of them during the war. German doctrine centered around the machine gun, especially weapons like the MG-42. Riflemen existed to support the machine gun. American doctrine was the opposite. The rifleman was the core of the squad. That difference mattered. In one-on-one engagements, German riflemen were often outgunned. An American soldier could maintain steady fire while advancing or defending, while a German soldier had to work the bolt after every shot. German reports noticed this almost immediately. The Germans weren't ignorant of the problem. They tried to build their own semi-automatic rifles. The first major attempt, the G41, was a disaster. Design restrictions forced engineers to use a complicated muzzle gas trap system. It fouled easily, corroded, and failed constantly. Many rifles were returned as unusable. The later G43 fixed some of these issues and copied elements from the Soviet SVT-40, but it arrived far too late. German industry couldn't produce it in sufficient numbers, and the war situation made mass re-equipment impossible. By the time the G43 appeared in meaningful quantities, the outcome of the war was already turning. Germany produced a few 100,000 semi-automatic rifles. The United States produced over 5 million M1 Garands. That difference alone explains why German soldiers encountered the rifle everywhere and why it left such an impression. The Garand had flaws. It was heavy. Reloading wasn't flexible. You couldn't easily top off a partially empty clip, but in combat, none of that outweighed its advantages. It fired every time. It handled dirt, mud, and weather well, and it let ordinary infantrymen maintain fire superiority. That's why German soldiers didn't hate the Garand because of myths or sounds. They hated it because it worked. The M1 Garand served through World War II and Korea. It shaped the thinking behind every rifle that followed. Later designs would use lighter ammunition and detachable magazines, but the core idea remained the same. Give the infantryman more firepower without sacrificing reliability. On March 28, 1944, John Garand received the Medal for Merit from President Roosevelt, recognition for a rifle that quietly changed modern warfare. German soldiers learned the hard way what that change meant.